And we're live. Welcome back to Tactical and Practical. Coming at you at a new time today. We're trying the 10 a.m. slot because this guest is a good one. And he was like, I can't do noon. I can do 10. And I was like, the entire show is worth moving to listen to what Kyle Yeoman, president of Groove, has to say. Kyle, what's up, dude? Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I followed for a long time, so this is fun.
Dude, I have been loving your blogs lately. If you guys don't follow Kyle on LinkedIn, check him out. But this one really caught my eye. And I was like, hey, dude, come on the pod. Like, this has to be something that more people hear. The title I love, and then I'll let you explain the concept. But the title was Addition by Extraction. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, I think as marketers, right, that's my background primarily and yours and a lot of people here, we're always drawn to the new thing, right? I mean, every single week there's some new tool, there's some new tip, and we all kind of just chase our tails, it seems like. And it ends up bloating the business, right? It adds costs, it adds complexity, it can confuse your team. And so I just was sitting there pontificating on what does it look like to try to extract more value out of the things we already have and do versus adding to the new. And I think that's becoming more and more important in a tougher environment, right? Back in 21 and 22, everything you did worked. So you just kept growing. And so it made sense to add. I think in this leaner environment, it makes more sense to try to pull more value from what you have before you look to the next frontier. So I think that's the general premise, but I'm excited to talk a little bit.
Dude, I love it. And I love the specificity of in a leaner time when you need your team to be lean and mean and effective and efficient. Like, there's always going to be a new hire to add, a new software to try. But for me in my career, I've never had a marketing team bigger than 3 people. And that's led to fantastic growth and tiny OpEx for the businesses that I've worked for. We actually track MOPEX, marketing operating expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, such a great goal to give your CMO or VP of marketing or head of growth, being like, hey, your MOPEX, that's on you. You got to own that and make sure that's not getting out of control, because there's a lot. Kyle with the phone in
I'm
the
so
middle of
sorry.
the episode, dude.
I was worried about that happening.
I was going to give you 10 points because you're the first person to say pontificate on this podcast, but then I'm going to subtract 10 for the phone. So you're back to even. But dude, I wanted to share an example of this addition by extraction. This is probably 12 or 18 months ago. I was at my last job and we wanted to get better at upselling. We wanted to increase AOV. So kind of the first thing we did was well, let's look at new upsell tools, even though we had one. We got distracted for a minute on some of the new, better features that were out there with some of the other softwares. And before we committed to one, I asked my team, I was like, guys, before we do this, when was the last time we ran a split test of our current upsell offers? And they were like, 3 months ago. Yeah. And I was like, all right. So doesn't seem like we've even really tried lately. What if we just stick with what we've got and really make an effort at it? And in the next 3 months, we went from our upsell orders, our upsell tool, on average adding $3 per order to adding $14 per order, just from focusing on it and just from trying. And 14, and that's a difference of $11 an order on a brand that's going to get hundreds of thousands of orders a year. That's a 7-figure win that took 6 weeks of just focus. And it didn't take up all our time either. We were still able to work on our normal day-to-day stuff. But the alternative, what the mistake we almost made that a lot of brands make is onboarding new software. Onboarding is going to take forever. It's not going to work as smoothly as you want it to right out the gate. So for us, it was definitely the right move to be hey, instead of adding something, let's see what we can extract from our current tech stack, because chances are you're not getting the most out of your current stack already.
100%. And I like that example a lot. And I think one of the reasons I've always hesitated to write content or do things like this, right, is most of the time it misses context on the actual business you're in, right, or the nuance. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about today, you have higher volume, right? So if you're at a really small scale, a lot of the stuff doesn't apply. But there's two kind of things when you're talking about that I think are good filters, right? Is like, does this drive incremental output or value, mostly being revenue? And then does this lower the threshold for payback? And I think what your example did right there, right, is like it lowers the threshold for a good outcome. And so one example that we've run recently is, I'm going to use one example front end, but I think this applies for back end, right? So if you do your own fulfillment or you have your own warehouse, there's questions like this you can ask, and that's this, which is, what are ways I can use my existing assets differently to get to an outcome I need to get to anyway? So for example, influencer programs, right? They're all the rage. People do whitelisting, all these things, right? It costs a lot to hire an agency to do it, right? They're going to go do a bunch of outbound. It takes 60 days to get people onboarded. Then you have the fees to pay the person, right? Then it's expensive. So you end up having this high threshold or barrier. And so one example we did is think about your email list for a minute. Again, assuming you have volume, how could you leverage that audience differently than just pushing a promotion or the next new product list? I think we all do this where we hit our list up for revenue. That's the only thing. We're like, give us feedback on product and then give me more revenue. And I think the exercise I'm encouraging people to do is sit down and go like,
you're being generous, assuming brands are using their email list for product feedback. By the way, there's very few that I've seen actually do that well.
Well, this is a good example, right? That's a super simple, very basic, non-technical way to get more value out of your list, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing is this. So, instead of hiring an influencer agency that you pay 10 grand a month or whatever that is, why don't you survey your list and say, who here has more than 100,000 followers and loves our brand?
Yeah.
Again, it's super simple. The problem with a lot of these things is they're not sexy enough to feel like a win, right? You post them somewhere,
right?
Duh. And I think they're really simple. They're easy ideas, but it's focused on execution that really makes a difference.
Well, dude, and like both our businesses now are to the size where like saving money actually matters. And if you're listening to this and like you're below 10 million a year, I hate to break it to you. Like, I don't think saving money matters that much. You cannot save your way to millions of dollars in profit if you're not already a big business. But as you continue to grow, like hiring that influencer agency for $15K a month is sometimes an easy decision for the scale that some businesses are at. And it's like, yeah, like whatever, it's fine. We're going to spend $15K a day on ads today. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
But to your point, in a lean environment, in this economy, as I like to say, there's leaner, more efficient ways of getting all these outcomes that don't always require a big monthly retainer or a new team member or software or whatever. So I love this relentless focus on like using what you've got to make more of it, basically.
Yeah, it's simple, right? I mean, that's the whole idea. And so it'd be really interesting. I'd love to hear how other people think about doing this. I will encourage people to, when you first sit down, it's going to feel like a waste of time, right? Because you're going to have days you're like, I'm already doing all these things.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll just keep asking the next question. And I think it's really helpful to do it in a group too. Even people who are cross-functional, right? So if you have other people on your team who aren't in the same space you're in every day, bring them in to ask questions about how we use an asset. I think that's a really valuable way to engage the whole team and get buy-in. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, let's move on to the next segment. We're going to talk about the tweet of the week, dude, and I think it's a good one. I'm disappointed that I didn't tweet this because it's a sentiment that I've held for a while, and I think I want this message to get out to more people. So shout out Fraser Cottrell. He says volume maxing is cope for not being able to make good ads. Kyle, what's your gut reaction to this?
I agree with this.
Yeah,
I agree with this. I can tell you why, but I'd love to hear what you think first, and then we'll go from there.
Dude, I think this whole concept around volume has been pushed on us by agencies that get paid based on how much creative they make. I think that's kind of it. And like I've talked about like before on the theme of lean, efficient teams. If I'm doing more work, if my team is working harder than we need to hit our goals, we are wasting time. We are wasting effort and resources and budget. So yeah, I have no interest in making the most ads. I actually want to make the least number of ads that allow us to hit our business goals. That's
Yeah.
how I think about it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I actually think I like his phrase, volume maxing is kind of lazy, right? It basically
Yeah.
takes out the quality meter. It goes like, well, we're just going to do as much as we can. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good way to abdicate responsibility for the quality of your work. Is
Yeah.
my opinion.
100%.
I
Love
love
that. If you guys are making 100 ads a week or something insane like that,
You don't need
try to make 7 that are really good.
Yeah.
And when I say really good, I don't mean just like up the production quality of it. I mean, like, do more customer research. Talk to more people that are using your products daily. Hire a better copywriter. Like, do something to make the impact of these ads stronger,
Yeah.
rather than shoving 100 ads into the algorithm. Because like when I think about some of the iconic brands and iconic ads from my childhood, they were not diverse.
Mm-mm.
Kit Kat did not run many different ads. They ran that same jingle for 20 years and we all remember it. So
Yeah.
I think in order to build a brand that stands for something, you have to say your thing a lot.
Over and over.
And like I've been critiqued in the past because like ads for brands I've run have felt repetitive. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, but now customers know who we are. And I think they convert better rather than trying 100 different hooks that don't really have anything to do with who you are or what you stand for or who your products are for.
Yeah. No, I love a simple filter. It's really funny. The amount of times I see creative and you go like, if you just read this from someone who didn't know the better brand, like, does this even make sense? Or is
Yeah.
this just a bunch of words matched together that seemed like it would fit? I think to Fraser's point, he seems like he's doing this for men and TikTok. So I won't talk about TV or any of those others. But the algorithm already sorts it for you, right? Like most of your stuff won't get
Yeah.
spent anyway. So I think
Well, yeah. And that's the thing I really don't understand is like, I'm running an account right now that launches way more ads than I'm used to.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, but we're only actually spending on 13 of them.
Right.
So like, why are there 100 ads that spent $70 last week? Like
Right.
to me, I think that's actually like wasted money more than anything. Cause it's like, hey, there's 70 ads that
Mhm.
Meta has determined are losers.
Right.
That would each spend $100 on. That's a ton of money going to losing ads. So
Yes.
yeah, no, I could go on about this forever. I think volume is not the way to success on Meta ads. I think a sniper rifle approach is better than a machine gun.
Totally agree. Love it.
All right, do you mind if we do a new segment brought to you by IntelliGems?
Can't wait.
We're going to talk about a recent test that I ran, and I know I've got some data blurred out here, but I now work in a very competitive supplement space, and this win is as recent as Monday. So I'm not going to reveal the details of this until I beat this headline, and then I'll tell competitors the old one that worked. But the only thing we changed on this test was a headline on one of our higher traffic landing pages. That's it. Just the headline. We didn't have any great wins on conversion rate or revenue and profit per session. I mean, I'll take a 6% win, but like that's nothing I'm pumped about. That's nothing I'm bragging about to the team. But what is crazy is the massive gain in our subscription take rate. The control landing page was only getting 17.5% of total orders to be subscription orders. The two winning variants were at 32 and 37%. This one is 100% increase over the control. And for a brand like ours, where a subscriber is worth so much more than a one-time purchaser, this is a massive, massive win. And I think my takeaway from this kind of goes along with what you were saying about like how do we use something for more than revenue. I think this is the best example of it. This was the first time in my career where I was like, hey, I'm going to write a headline where the goal isn't to increase conversion rate. The goal is to help customers see how this product fits into their lives, encourages them to build better daily habits, because I wrote this for LTV. And that is what we see coming out here. So this was a huge win. I'm pumped about this. I'm about to copy and paste this headline format onto like every LP we have, and try to get it to work across our product line. But dude, I'm so pumped up about this.
Yeah, you should be. That's insane. The only problem now is, where do you go from here? How do you you set too high a standard?
Well, so this is where, and this is actually a great question, because it's the question I get a lot when people talk about like, okay, so now what? Like, you found a headline that works. What happens next? The internal team gets a summary update from me that's like, hey, these 2 headlines ripped. Here's why I think they worked. We need to now go implement this across product lines and throughout the entire funnel. So I want to see ads with similar messaging on them. I want to see this messaging worked into our welcome email and SMS flows for these products. I want to see this everywhere, because we now have proof that based on the way we talk about the products, we can double our subscription rate. We need to be doing this everywhere possible. So we'll do all of that before I'll try to like test the headline on this page again. I'll let this win, set these as the winners, and let it run while we update the rest of the funnel to kind of match this messaging.
I love it. That's awesome, man. That is a crazy result.
Dude, it's nuts. When I saw this, I like refreshed the page a couple times because I was like, is this right? Like, is this?
Nope.
That's insane. But yeah, shout out IntelliGems for giving us this data. And shout out to me for being a copywriter who's pretty good.
Great.
All right, dude. We are going to talk about one tactical tip that people can take away from this episode. There's been some good ones already. If you guys haven't been taking notes, you might have missed one. But Kyle, if you can leave people with one tactical tip for the week, what would it be?
I think it actually plays directly off of your test right there, which is just focused on one thing at a time. So there were 5 metrics I think you showed. 3 were up slightly, 1 was down slightly, but only 1 really drove the business. Yeah. So I think that'd be the encouragement is don't get distracted. Extract what you can out of things you already have. Maximize the value before you add more to your plate. That would be it.
Dude, I think that's really on point, because like some split tests will have mixed results like this, and everyone's like, oh, well, the goal of the test is to make more money. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously, but there are multiple different ways to make more money.
Right.
You could do that by increasing conversion rate, which cuts CAC. That actually saves you money. You could increase your margins, so your profit per visitor is better. You could increase your LTV, so your subscription rate is better. Like,
you could decrease your cost of traffic. You could do 25, right? But you just need 1 to do anything.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to know. Like, hey, we are testing this for one very specific outcome, because then it's black and white whether it worked or not. Like, assuming the subscription take rate was not 86% better here, I wouldn't have taken this as a win, even though conversion rate and profit per visitor were up. Because I'm like, well, that wasn't the goal. Like, yeah, 6% improvement's fine, but like, we're not going to grow the brand how we want to on 6% improvements. Like, we need bigger wins. So yeah, I love that. Be very specific and be very intentional with how and why you are testing things across your marketing funnel.
I have one other one we should talk about another time, which is I am raging against this slight incremental improvement. So we, it's like we get into this trap, right? It's like 3% wins.
Yep.
I think they're total crap, and we should be going for the big ones you're talking about. So I want to have another conversation about that another time, about how to like rip up the playbook and do something better. So
love that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in the saying, like, someone has said it better than me, but it's something about like little changes produce little changes. And I'm not really here for that. Like, I want bigger changes, which means we need to take bigger swings and like do things that are more drastically different, because unless you're a brand that's doing 200 million a year already, you shouldn't be excited about a 6% win. Like, it's like, all right. And first of all, like, to prove a 6% win is incremental, you'd have to run 50,000 orders through it. Like, So it's like, yeah, this is kind of a win, maybe, but 20% wins, 50% wins, 86% wins are what brands at less than 100 million a year need to be able to stack and compound to grow the brands as fast as they want.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Last segment here. It's called Marketers Anonymous. For those of you listening, my DMs are open. You guys can hit me with any questions you got about marketing, career, life, steak, whiskey, conspiracy theories about the moon landing, whatever you guys want, I am here for you. But this question we got, I think, was a good one. It says, do most marketers actually know what they're doing, or are we all winging it? Kyle, your answer first.
I think it depends on whether or not it works, right? So if I have a good idea, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And if I didn't, no, I think it's a mix, right?
It's the belief of like when something good happens, it's because of strategy that we implemented and executed well. And when something bad happens, it's because of macroeconomic headwinds that are out of our control.
Interest rates, man.
Inflation.
Yeah, inflation.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts?
I think the best marketers like have a good balance of this. You know, like do I know what I'm doing a lot better than I did years ago in my career? But every month at my job, like basically takes me doing something that I've never done before. Going back to your like bigger incremental swings, like when we're trying something new for the first time, we are winging it. I think the biggest maybe talent or skill that a marketer needs to be able to hone in on is have some kind of framework for how to build a fair test and be able to test a theory in a controlled environment, understand the outcomes you're hoping for, understand the data as it comes in, then learn from those results and implement it across the brand. Like that's where I think winging it becomes okay. Because you can wing it on a new campaign idea that's out there and weird if you have a solid process for testing, analyzing, and rolling out what you have learned from it. So I think that's probably what separates good marketers from hacky ones is even when we are going out on a limb and testing something we've never done and are in fact winging it, we are going to have a way to analyze it and measure it to learn something from it at the end. So I think that's probably the biggest thing to know here is like, there's going to be times in your career when you are forced to do something that you've never done. Maybe you're not qualified to do. So you will have to wing it. But you need to have a playbook for testing it fairly, analyzing the results and learning from it. And that's how it goes from you're winging it to you have a plan and a strategy and you know what you're doing. And then win or lose, you'll be able to explain to your boss or your team what we learned and what we should do next.
I couldn't agree more. I think the other one, it builds on what you're talking about, is just the ability to stack learnings, right? So I think the mark of a great marketer and a good employee, a good business person is not to make the same mistake twice, right? So I think exactly what you said. It's like most of the time we're doing new things and we don't know. But once you have done it, you shouldn't, mess it up the second time.
100%. Love that. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people follow you? Where can people subscribe to your blog? What are you up to these days?
I'm only on LinkedIn. I am really bad at all this outward facing stuff. Most of the time I'm just working on the business. So this is actually the first one of these I've ever done. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking a chance. Hopefully your subscribers don't drop from this one, but it's been fun and yeah, LinkedIn and or text me, email me.
That's awesome, dude. And that's what I've been trying to do with the pod is like bring some voices to light that like aren't personal brands in the industry. Cause I love that you've been heads down building a fantastic brand for the last decade. The industry needs your voice and knowledge and experience. So I'm glad you're here now. I'll bully you onto Twitter one day. But for now, thanks so much for coming on.
Awesome. Appreciate you, man.